Absolutely, absolutely. Good evening, America. Welcome to tonight's great, impactful, historic, and much needed conversation titled Black Male Voters Are Diverse. I'll be your moderator on tonight. My name is Damien Jones. I'll be your facilitator. I'll be your moderator for this historic conversation that we will have tonight. This conversation is brought to you by the Damien Jones podcast, myself, and also in strong partnership with the good brothers from Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. And you will hear from leaders from that fraternity in just a moment. And so this is an important conversation. This is an impactful conversation. This is a vital conversation that we will have tonight in the wake of all that is happening in our country. And so I just want you to, just for a moment, to make sure that we are bringing everybody into the room. So take a moment right now and share this broadcast. Make sure that you are liking this broadcast. Make sure you are tagging folks in your circle. Tag folks that you have been having this conversation with about black males, about black men, and about the issues that black men are facing in this country. You know, we are approaching the most pivotal election of our lifetime, and all groups will play a huge role. But by golly, black men will play a very, very vital role in this. So I'm excited to be with you tonight. But come on in this room. Let's share. Let's get more people into the room as we have this conversation. This is going to be a very interactive conversation as well. And so I'd like to hear from you. You know, I like a little call and response. I'm a grandson of a Baptist preacher, so I like a little call and response. And so leave your questions and comments below in the chat, and we will get to those questions. We want to know what you think. We want to hear from you in within today's conversation as well. Again, this is a great conversation. Black male voters are diverse. Let's have this conversation. We'll hear from our diverse panel in just a moment. But let me just say this: black men are precious. Black men are priceless. Uh, Black men are strong. Black men are weak. Black men are fearless. But black men are also scared. Black men are fathers. Black men are uncles. Black men are mentors. Black men are gay. Black men are straight. Black men are rich and they are poor. Black men are Republicans. Black men are Democrats. Black men are independents. But what we want to unpack in tonight's conversation is how black male voters are extremely diverse. And so, as we lead into this conversation, I want to quickly bring in our friend who is the 22nd International Grand Polaris for Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. Let's bring this brother into the conversation. Mr. Andre Manson, give us a few comments, a few words about today's conversation, Mr. Manson.
Hey, how are you all today?
Good.
This is so heartfelt right now, and well needed. Again, like we were sharing a little bit earlier, given um, the case with Breonna Taylor and the outcome
Mm-hmm.
of that, and I got to be honest. I mean, it's just so much. It's so heavy. So I won't take up much of your time today. I just wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you and the coordinators putting this event together, the panelists that you got that seems outstanding, and all those out there who are joining us today. You know, given the current environment of the land, of the economical, social, and political landscape, it's just become imperative that we have to have as many Black men engaged in this political process as possible. So again, I'm not going to hold you all. I would just say on behalf of our honorable founders, our Grand Council, the NIF, and the men of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, I want to say welcome. And I'm looking forward to seeing the great results that this initiative is going to yield in a time that's so critical right now for us. So thank you, brother. Keep up the great work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr. Manson. And so let's get to tonight's conversation with our powerful panel of impactful brothers from all across this country. And I'll give them a few moments to introduce themselves as well. So starting with Michael Melendi, go ahead and introduce yourself to America.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for having me, Damien. And again, thanks for creating a platform for this conversation to be able to be had with other brothers who have difference of opinions. I think it's a really beautiful thing, so thank you for that. Again, my name is Michael Melendi. I'm out here in Los Angeles, California, and I'm an entertainment journalist. I sit down with different celebrities, thought provokers, and different people within the entertainment community and conduct interviews in which I share to various media outlets around the country. And I have a great time having conversations with them about a wide variety of topics, from politics to family, and of course, entertainment and movies. So I'm happy to be here and share my opinion. So thank you again for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Mike. Dr. Ronald Neal, talk to us.
Yes, good evening to all the panelists, and thank you, Mr. Jones, for this invitation. I look forward to this conversation. I'm an associate professor of religion at Wake Forest University. My focus is, in terms of research and scholarship, deals with religion and politics, and religion and masculinity. And I'm just happy to be a part of this diverse group of individuals from various ideological perspectives, and I'm excited about the conversation that we're going to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Perry Lidden, talk to us really quickly.
Hi, good evening. My name is Perry Litton. Thank you to all the panelists and Damien for the invitation. I am currently a political strategist. I run political campaigns with a specialty in judicial races here in New York City. Outside of that, I work closely with elected officials for community relations building and public relations work. And besides that, I'm also consider myself a Democrat socialist, and do a lot of grassroots organizing here in New York City and throughout the state of New York, and also with Revolution and some other progressive groups.
Absolutely. Thank you. Great. Thank you for being here. All the way from Houston, Texas, Mr. Jerry Monroe. Unmute yourself, Mr. Monroe.
I want to thank you for allowing me to sit on this panel. My name's Gary Monroe. Today, I just happen to be in Houston because I can be a little bit of everywhere across the country at any given minute. I'm a political consultant as well as an education advocate. And what I'm seeing right now, brother, I mean, we got to talk about it and we got to go in depth with it. But I appreciate you even considering me. And political affiliation, we know what it is. I'm the Black Republican on the panel, man.
Donovan Sadiq, really quickly, tell us who you are.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Donovan Sadiq. I'm out of Moreno Valley, California. I am a political watchdog, retired from the United States Air Force after 24 years of service, and I'm a political independent.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donovan. And Mr. Sean Fogel, tell us who you are.
All righty. Hey, thanks a lot, Damon. Thaddeus Jones. You got to put that Thaddeus in there. But I want to thank you as well as the brothers Iota Phi Theta for putting this together. Very happy to be here along with the esteemed panelists. Brother, I was just out in Houston supporting Miss Lynn Clouser as she runs for city council out there in Missouri City. Sorry we didn't get a chance to catch up with each other. So, you know, a little bit about me. As my classmate, which is funny, we didn't even know on this panel together, Donovan, Air Force veteran as well, spent 25 years in the United States Air Force, where I was lucky enough to be promoted to the rank of Chief Master Sergeant. After that, had a chance to start a consulting firm where I went out and shook up Fortune 500 companies talking about diversity and inclusion. Now I work for one of the federal agencies as a senior program and project manager. And, you know, as far as my party affiliation, you know, it's funny because, you know, as I was preparing for this, I couldn't figure out the last time I really, you know, voted for issues that, you know, kind of affected me. So I'm more of an independent, you know, understanding Republican views with the compassion of Democrats. So thank you.
Absolutely. So yeah, I just wanted to set the table. So if we'll know who we're speaking with, we'll know what vantage point that we're coming from. Just wanted to kind of just lay out the diversity of this particular panel. Remember, folks, like this broadcast, share this broadcast, bring folks into the room as we dive headfirst into this no holds barred conversation. I just told the panelists, give me all you got. Just don't curse. My mama's watching. And so here, let me start here. We look over the landscape of America. We see what is happening. You know, our dear sister Breonna Taylor did not get any justice on yesterday. But this has been a theme in America. Black folks not getting justice. Jacob Blake shot down like a dog 7 times. Ahmaud Arbery catching hell. Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice. We can go on and on and on and on. And it seems in the conversation as I talk to Black men wherever we are, is that Black men are cast aside and downtrodden and forgotten about as we live, but then we become a deity and we are lifted up after we die and we're killed in cold blood by police violence. And so the question that I'll first throw out, and I'll come to Mr. Monroe first here. Has the Black male voter been forgotten?
There's no doubt about it. We've been forgotten. 2 years ago, you know, these people they act like we did not exist. You know, if we were that important, they would have been engaging us 2 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, at the last minute, with a few days left before the election, we become very, very important to the political survival of certain candidates. And I feel like it's a slap in the face. I feel like if we wasn't important 2 years ago, sort of like my friend, I can't remember his name, that was in the Air Force with Donovan, you need to do your research. You need to look at the issues that directly affect you, and don't just vote because of your affiliation to these people. Research these people. No, we've been forgotten about. It's proven.
Absolutely. Dr. Ron Neal, kind of give me your thoughts on that. Has the Black male voter been forgotten in America's political discourse?
Yeah, so right now, this is the first time in that I can recall in any election in recent memory, let's say the last 50 years, that Black men have been lifted up as a demographic to be courted. And this only happened in 2016 when Republicans, after Donald Trump, actually before Donald Trump was elected to the presidency, when Breitbart made an effort to reach out to Black men, and that became publicized. And so it was at that time that there was this awareness that Black men are a significant demographic. Sure. And then, within that time between now and then, and after the election of 2016, we saw a number of Black men who voted for Donald Trump. And that was coupled with the Black people who did not vote, okay, who did not show up to the polls. And so that created greater awareness about our status as voters. But overall, yes, to answer your question, we haven't been neglected. We have been underestimated. And for all sorts of reasons, we have been suppressed in terms of our political capital. And so now we're in a very unique moment in terms of our currency as Black voters. And so I'm excited that we're having this conversation, because for me, this is very important, not just for November, but it's important for, 2024, 2028, what's going to happen in the next, 3 to 4 president election cycles.
Absolutely, absolutely. Perry, hop in here. You've heard the comments of the previous brothers. They're agreeing like, hey, we've been forgotten here. But I don't know whether you agree or disagree. Probably you may agree, but kind of talk about that if you agree, what does that feel like to be a part of this forgotten group?
Quickly, I don't agree, because I feel that Black people were never a part of the conversation.
Okay.
We were never a part of the DNC's platform, the RNC's platform. We first have to be given a space where we are in the large picture conversation. Criminal justice reform. How many years have we been arguing for it and got nothing? Oh, President Obama, first Black male president. Black men were killed under his presidency. Still no movement on criminal justice reform. No movement. I live here in New York City. We all bear witness to NYPD choking a man to death. It took 8 years. We took 8 years for us to ban chokehold, which they're about to appeal. We are a complete blue state. We are not a part of the larger picture. And even now, I have absolutely zero faith in Biden or Kamala to sit here and continue the narrative after they win. That's the position I'm coming from. We have to be a part of the larger picture and a part of the larger DNC's and RNC's platform in order for us to really have a voice at the table. I think they're just using us for votes.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there, and I'm coming back because I heard that there's no faith in that Democratic platform, which is interesting because you said you're a Democratic socialist. So I'm going to put a pin and come back to that particular point, but continue with the other brothers here. Michael Melindy, kind of talk to us. Do you feel as a part of that forgotten group within the political discourse as a Black male voter?
Absolutely. On a whole, there's no question that, Black men have definitely been forgotten. But every election cycle, we see the same thing. We become the focus, not just Black men, but Black people in general, and issues that are surrounding our communities. And, we've always heard that Black women are the backbone of our families and of our communities. And in a lot of ways they are. But when it comes to how Black men play a role in families and how they play a role in raising our children, our sons, it never really gets discussed on the political level. It's always on a community level. And I think the importance of having fathers in the households is one of the most pressing issues as it relates to, Black men and voting, because we should be voting for something that we can actually identify with. So in a nutshell, we absolutely have been forgotten. And just like every other year, come back around and try to get our attention and our votes.
Absolutely. Chief Fogel, hop in and give me your thoughts on that particular topic.
Hey, man, thank you. I appreciate that. So, you said, have we been forgotten? But I turned the question around and asked, what have we done to make ourselves relevant to the conversation?
Okay.
You look at our participation, for example, in legislative affairs. I don't know that we've necessarily held up our end of the bargain to where we're seen as a commodity. One thing I can say about the GOP is they have a commodity theory where they engage people in things that they see value in. So, having said that, we go back to, simply being on the chessboard really is not enough, because it comes down to, are you viewed as a pawn, or are you viewed, as a king? So, it's really, something that we've got to think about as, a segment, of the voting population. How do we leverage this newfound power that we have to where we're getting something out of the deal? And I don't know that we have, codified our thoughts and our resolve to where we're in a position to really make a stand.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've heard so far, and I'm coming to you here, Donovan. What I've heard so far is that we need to do a better job of positioning ourselves to be in the line of fire, if you will. I've heard that we've never been a part of the calculation in the equation in the first place, and we're only pawns when it's an election season. But I've also heard that just flat out, we are a forgotten commodity. Donovan, your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, again, I agree, we're having this great conversation and I appreciate it, but let's get real to what's really going on. We've been in this country 400 and something years. It is no secret that they don't want us here. You don't go to the oppressor and say, hey, let me join the system that's oppressing you. We're talking about that right now. What we really need to be talking about is we look at both parties that isn't doing anything for us, regardless of what we do and how many votes we give them, and we get nothing out of the deal. So what we really need to be talking about here is how we should be out there forming our own party and practicing group economics among ourselves. And that's why I think we need to go in regards to these parties. They both take us for granted, and we get nothing out of that.
Right. And I hear that a lot. I've seen there's a new group surfacing with our Black Party that's coming up. We've heard for years that Black folks need to go create their own party, because if you're a Democrat, Black men are still being decimated at historic levels and shot down like a dog. If you're a Republican, you're called a coon, but still shot down like a dog. Before the police kill you, they don't ask you your partisan affiliation. And so the conversation is, it's just not working across the board. But here, I'm going to toss this one out. Anybody can take this, and I know y'all going to be chomping at the bit with this particular question. Let's get into issues, right? Because I watched the Democratic National Convention. I watched the Republican National Convention as well. And I've lived in America for 35 years, and I've seen a lot. And so my question, and I'll throw it out, and y'all jump in and grab it. What are the issues that are most important to the Black male voter? Because it seems that these parties can't figure it out, and it's just some deep formula that it takes to figure it out. What are the issues that are most prevalent and that are top of mind and most important to you gentlemen and your families?
I'll say police reform. We brought up Breonna Taylor last night. I mean, we brought it up last night. You brought it up earlier in the discussion. I would look a Black person in the eye, because I asked this question last night. Nobody could answer it. If you are appalled at what you saw with Breonna Taylor, how could you vote for anybody at the presidential level when it comes November? None of them believe in qualified immunity. They don't want to do anything with it. They don't want to change the situation. So how could you go cast a vote for any of these demons? The other thing is reparations. You owe us our money. Now, I know your mom watching, so I'm not going to curse. But you owe us our money, man. You can put mine in a brown raw bag. I need my money, man. Bottom line, they've given it to everybody else. I don't see another race of people protesting like we are right now. I don't see another race of people marching like we're marching right now. And my feet are hurting and I'm tired. Those are the two.
Right. So you say criminal justice reform, and what was the other one?
Reparations.
And reparations. Perry, I want you to jump in here in response to, because listen, you're the more vocal Democrat here on this particular panel, and the overall arching thinking is that conservatives are going to be fully behind law enforcement, and that Democrats should be in there trying to break up that monotony. and to end qualified immunity because black folks are being killed and cops are getting off. Now I would say we have great respect for law enforcement, but it is what it is. But Biden put out a video some weeks ago talking to black folks, and they didn't say they're going to end qualified immunity. They said we're going to rein it in. I don't know what that means, but kind of talk about that and what are those top issues to you as a black male voter?
Okay, so for me, I think I look at it from like large picture and breaking it down for the black community and for black men. Mm-hmm. When you look at data, and we're talking strictly data, the number one thing is economics. Okay. We lag behind work. Every black economic level is far behind than their white counterparts. Mm-hmm. And it's when you think about black middle class, you look at their dollar versus the white middle class, Latino middle class, Asian middle class, we're lagging behind. We have more debt. Economics, and one thing that will help that is reparations. Mm-hmm. But it has to be a reparations package. It just can't be money. It has to be investments in institutions. And it has to be at all levels of government. So federal, state, and local, because that's how you'll be able to address all these systemic issues. On top of that is, right after that is the criminal justice reform, because it affects us across the board.
Across the board, right.
Every black man, regardless of your economic background, your lawyer, doctor, you are afraid of the police. And even if you're in a good community, if you're driving it late at night and there's a cop coming behind you, even if you're in a good neighborhood, you're still scared. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's what my views are. And I really, again, I have absolutely no faith in Joseph Biden with delivering on anything, especially definitely dealing with police, especially with his response to Breonna Taylor's outcome. Yeah, he's definitely showing that he's going to be pro-cop.
Absolutely.
Especially
Absolutely. And here's the thing, and I want folks in watching to understand this, and as you hear these raw comments from brothers often don't have a safe space to talk like this. You know, we often don't have these type of spaces to convene amongst each other and give a real convo on these political topics, and oftentimes our conversations are disrupted or hijacked or demeaned. And so I think, brothers, please feel free to just continue to unload on these with these raw comments and these earnest thoughts that you're sharing, because it's important that as for us to grow and move as a democratic nation, we've got to hear these honest comments from black men. Dr. Neal, hop in here. What are those top issues facing black men today?
Yes, I want to echo the point that was just made about economics and economic incorporation. Okay, the economic incorporation of black men into the mainstream of capitalism in the United States. Okay, both parties, Democrat and Republican, all right, have commitments to Wall Street. They have commitments to the money class, but the money classes. Okay. And I think that what we need to do is address the fact that there is a need for government. You need government policy that would promote the incorporation of black men at every levels. And I'm talking about something that is much bigger than affirmative action, something that is male specific, that there is a government push at the highest level for black male employment, black male enfranchisement. And I think that's basic because our economic situation, our underemployment, our low wages, our economic precarity, our condition of us being outside of the economy affects everything. Economics affects criminal justice. Economics affects our health situation. Economics affects our ability to educate and develop ourselves. So we have to deal with money. And the government has been decisive, and it has been intentional with economically enfranchising other demographics. Okay, and so the demographic that is most being committed to has been white women, and it has elevated their prospects and their circumstances in ways that are extraordinary. And what we have to do is we have to say, listen, I mean, we have these real gaps and we have these real disparities. that affect the entire Black male population, regardless of class, social status, and the government in terms of business, employment. You can go on and on and on and on and on and on. We need economic incorporation.
Absolutely.
There is a caste system. There's a caste system that exists in the United States that Black men are caught up in, and government itself can address that caste system. So I think that this needs to be a priority in whatever type of politics that we pursue.
Absolutely, absolutely. I know one of those larger issues is criminal justice reform, and I know it's going to come up later in this conversation. But talk to me, Mr. Melendi. You're out of California. We know that there's been a huge prison population of formerly incarcerated Black men in that Los Angeles, California, and across California as a whole. Is that one of those top issues that stands out to you? Just kind of unpack that for me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the government has been, basically legitimizing slavery in today's world by, imprisoning Black men. It's no secret. But I think one of the greatest issues is actually the breakdown of the family. Statistically, we've seen what happens when a father is removed from the household. Between 1900 and 1950, Black women actually had a higher rate of marriage than white women. So I think it comes to reversing what actually was systematically incentivized, which is to remove the Black men from the household. So I think it should be reversed. I think we should incentivize people to stay together. I think we should, and that in return would help our economic status, because we have two people in a household who are able to, impart the importance of saving, this importance of keeping the money in the family and passing it on, just like the Asians and so many other, demographics have done. So I think it comes down to not just, the people who are in prison, but I think it's really about the breakdown of the family, which ends up leading to more people being in prison because of the choices that they make as a result of there not being a father in the household.
Absolutely. And let me just say this though, too, to that point, that fatherhood point. I did a show several months ago about the myth of an absent Black father, and because it's a total myth. And Dr. Neal was with me along with some other good brothers. And the numbers show that Black men are very active in their kids' lives. They are more active than all other ethnic groups. When you look at the numbers, I think what skews the numbers is Black men oftentimes may not be married to their children's mother, but they are still active. You don't have to be married to your children's mother to be active. So I just want to be clear about that. Donovan Sadiq, what are those top issues in your view that Black males have to tackle in America?
Well, for me, and it's always been that thing that rules the world. It's the money that rules the world. We suffer from a lack of money. So why do people do crime in most cases? Money, economic loss of money. So, one of the things that I really want to address, though, one of the comments in the comments, Mr. Hightower said that what we got to do is start getting the right people in office. And we could talk about voting all day long. We vote Democrat. Overwhelmingly, 80% of the vote goes by Black people to the Democratic Party, and we're 13% of the population. 8% of Black people Black men last election voted Republican. So what? That means the majority of us voted Democrat. What are we getting for our vote? Absolutely nothing. And so they keep saying we got to get the right people in there. Breonna Taylor did not get justice yesterday. How many Black representatives did you see on the national news talking about the injustice and what they're going to do and how they're going to get Breonna justice? What we need to do is start voting people in that's not going to go up to Capitol Hill or wherever they're going to go and fight. Get the damn job done. And if you're not going to get it done, we're going to get somebody in there that will. We need somebody that's going to represent our agenda, no excuses, unapologetically, get it done. The wealth gap in the United States is astronomical. But when you're on the bottom of the economic scale in a capitalistic system, you have no chance and no say-so to change anything. Get us our money, cut the check.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really quickly, tell me where you are with that, Sean Fogel. Those top issues.
Yeah, I keep hearing, us talking about, money, the racial inequality, the police reform, and something that I feel that we don't talk enough about is the education that's required. So I can cut, I can cut all of Black America a check today. And I guarantee you by next year, we'll be having the same conversation because because a large segment of those, yeah, they lack the fundamental education,
Sure.
to be able to handle anything that looks like reparations. So,
Sure.
so to me, I think we sell ourselves short when we don't start, because you think about it, most of who we are came from the education system that we came out of.
Right.
So
A
we're
very,
not
very
gonna, sit
decrepit
there
system.
and even that. You go back to, W.E. Du Bois when he talked about the souls of Black folks and when, slaves first started getting paid. What he said was those who were, fortunate enough to receive, a regular check were ill-equipped to even handle the money that they received. So they ended up back in a state of bondage because they didn't know what to do with it. Right. So until we look at this thing from the root of how do we educate folks, because again, education touches all those things we talked about. I mean, it's like, we're talking, cobalt and pound language when we talk about police reform. You got the Republicans who are saying that ain't a damn problem. Why? Because it's almost the way that we have not been educated to present our ideas. And it's not about presenting our ideas so that white people understand. It's about presenting our ideas in a platform that is strategic to where targeted aims can come out of it. Yep. So, to me, education is really where we kind of need to focus a lot of our energy, and the rest of those things will funnel out. Yeah.
Absolutely. The decrepit school systems, and that is a reason why we are suffering in this country in the way that we are, because our children's minds aren't being cultivated. We don't have the proper resources as other communities as well. And oftentimes our children just eventually give up on what it is that we call education.
Think about it, David. You got, and I'm sorry, I want to make this point. You think about it, Damien, right now, and we see it. You've got parents of Caucasian and other minority children who are fighting and paying tens and thousands of dollars to start their children in Montessori schools at the age of 2 and 3. So they're saying, that, hey, if we start this education piece early, I'm not saying it guarantees you success, but it almost, gives you a higher probability of understanding success and being exposed to other things.
Absolutely. And I'm coming to you, Monroe, and I know that kind of feeds into the conversation around school choice. But hop in there, Monroe, to your point.
The Black dollar stays in the Black community about 6 hours after we touch it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I probably wouldn't know how to handle $350,000 a year if they gave it to me. But it's mine. It's owed to me. Mm-hmm. Give me my money. Mm-hmm. I'll figure it out later on. I go take some classes. You know what I'm saying? You owe me my money. You didn't have a problem beating people. You didn't have a problem making us work for 400 years. Now you owe us. You didn't give us our mule or our land, so we need our money. We'll figure that out later on.
Right. So let me just reset really quickly. This is a great conversation around Black male voters and the diversity in thought. As we have great Black thinkers on this panel. Folks, make sure you are liking this broadcast, sharing this broadcast. For those who just entered the conversation, thank you so much. I'm Damien Jones. I'll be your host on tonight. This conversation is powered by the Damien Jones podcast and the great brothers of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. Let me just preface this by saying this as we move into the good part here. Every brother on this panel is a voter. Every brother on this panel encourages voting, but every brother on this panel encourages educated voting, not just groupthink voting. And so everybody on this panel wants you to do your research and go and make the decisions that are best for you. We have Republicans on this panel. We have independents on this panel. We have Democrats on this panel. Black brothers come from all different sides of the track, and we don't all see the world differently, but we're all fighting toward the same goal, which is the freedom and prosperity of our people. Now, I want to talk to who are the Biden supporters on this panel, if I may, because I never asked y'all this. Who supports Biden on this panel? Is that is that not a hand? I don't see not one hand here. Nobody. Wow. Well, so here's my question, and I'm gonna come to you. You're the Democratic Socialist there. Man, that's interesting. So Perry, let me ask you. This is my question, and this is for you. Maybe you can answer this question for all Black men for this question. And then in the comments as well, Biden supporters in the comments, please put your thoughts in the comments. For those Black men who support Joe Biden, and if you do so, that's okay. That's your business. But how do you look at Joe Biden's record in association in crafting the vicious 1994 crime bill, right? Because a lot of brothers are wanting to vote, but they're looking at that, and that may be a point of concern for them. So, given all that we're facing, how do Democratic brothers, look at that, and how do they reconcile with that to cast that vote for Joseph Biden?
So I want to put a point out there. I think because Joe Biden was Obama's vice president, I think a lot of people have forgiven him from Generation X and baby boomers. It's Black millennials and Gen Z that have problems with his history. But here's where things are contentious, is he has that history, and he made his BP running mate a prosecutor that Black men asked him not to do. That's the problem. That's where the contentiousness really comes in. And I was a Bernie supporter. Biden was the last one out of all the Democratic candidates. But reason why I said when everything happened, I said, you know what? Biden has my vote, but he doesn't have my support beyond that vote. So I don't make calls for him. I don't do any of that stuff for him. We have to acknowledge that people have forgiven him for the crime bills, but what made things even more contentious was when he made Kamala his running mate. She's the problem. I've been on the NAACP forums like this. People are not happy with her. She's contentious. She's polarizing. She is the issue more than him. People have gotten to the point where they have forgiven him. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Michael because he lives in California. And Ice Cube called it out very clearly how people really feel about her more than him.
Right. Yeah. Give me your thoughts on that, Mike, as it relates to where Black men stand with that ticket and your drawbacks, if there are any.
Yeah, I mean, history is bound to repeat itself, and I don't think that Black men are just going to forgive him because, he was Biden's running mate. I mean, Obama's running mate. And just to be clear, I mean, let's look at what he's done in the last 3 to 5 months. He's made countless comments that have just been alarming for Black men. I mean, when he gets asked serious questions by Black men, he kind of just, he weasels way out of it, and it really reminds me of the same thing that Hillary Clinton did when she was pandering to Black men or just the Black period in general, and even asked about it, and she laughed about it. It's the exact same thing. We're seeing it over and over again. He's not speaking to Black men. He's speaking to Cardi B's and everybody who really doesn't represent me or my thinking. So why would I support him? I just don't understand, what people are so excited about.
Right. So somebody hop in here and talk to me about where Black men are on the. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say something, and for me, kind of this is, where I have the problem with this whole. I do believe that Joe Biden needs to be held accountable for the crime bill, because what we said was one of the byproducts was it ended up catching up a lot of our, Black brothers, in leading to mass incarceration.
Hold that point. And to that particular point is, as you say that, that crime bill, and don't worry, folks. I'm going to come. We're going to do the same thing when it comes to Trump. So don't think we're going to beat up Biden and not talk about Trump, though.
Oh
So
no,
hold tight with
because
this.
that was my next point.
Right, but I wanted to say that that particular bill is the reason why a lot of black men are now trying to find ways to get off papers and they're felons and they cannot vote. And you see in Florida, there's a project happening where folks are paying millions of dollars to pay these fees to get these brothers to vote. But that particular legislation played a huge role in those brothers being locked out of this democratic voting system. Go ahead and finish your point.
Oh no, but you know, it's funny how we seem to remember everything that Joe Biden did, but hell, we can go back 30, 40 years where, you know, as opposed to it being a byproduct, some of the stuff that Donald Trump, you look at the Central Park Five, you know, you look at his targeted racism towards, you know, black people who were trying to live the American dream, find a place for their family to live. But we don't talk about that because we're so fixated on Joe Biden and the crime bill because we keep hearing about it and we keep hearing about it. So the problem that I've got with that is, you know, we seem to act like Donald Trump has done so much for the, you know, for the black man or, you know, the black American, you know, period. And I just don't, that's where I just don't understand how we can get so excited about why we won't vote for Joe Biden, but yet all the stuff that Donald Trump has done and continues to do, we seem to not even bring it up.
Absolutely. So, Donovan, I see you chomping at the bit there.
Well, you know, in regards to the Central Park Five, you got to ask yourself and really do your homework when it comes to what Donald Trump has did and stuff like that. Who was the prosecutor during the Central Park Five? I believe that was a Democrat. I mean, I can go on and on and on and point out that either party, no matter how we vote, it's still going to be evil, regardless of which way we go. So to go to the oppressor and say, hey, help me and let me help your system. They don't want us in the system. We have to start thinking in a different monotone. Now, here's my point real quick. The Democratic Party cannot win this election without the black vote. That's a fact. That is why they are kicking toward us right now. Now, you have 86, about 68, 86 congressional black caucus members. The House itself is 50% white on one side and whites on the other. So that means the Congressional Black Caucus controls and can control the legislative agenda to get anything passed through. We love symbolism. Why hasn't Nancy Pelosi put a reparations bill on the floor? Oh, it's not going to pass the Senate. That's not the point. Or is it the point that she doesn't want you to know who is in the Democratic Party, who is against us? That's the questions we got to ask ourselves. And we got to identify our enemies and just say, this is what, you know, this is the direction we got to go. They are not going to save us. We have to save ourselves.
Let me get that. Dr. Neal, I see you chomping. Hop in here.
Yeah, you know, I don't think we need to make real radical distinctions between, you know, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Okay. You know, both of these figures over the course of their lifetimes have demonstrated, you know, a commitment to white capital, white power. You know, the fundamental difference between the two is that Joe Biden has held public office. And as what has just been said, I mean, he has a clear political track record. Okay. Donald Trump is a first-term president, never held public office before. Okay. We can't attribute what happened to the Central Park Five or the exonerated Five exclusively to Donald Trump. Yes, there was a political system in place and ideologies, prosecutors in particular in New York City. You have Rudolph Giuliani, who was, you know, the Attorney General at that particular time. And so we're talking about that Giuliani is a Republican, Democrat. And what we have to realize is that, you know, debating over Donald Trump and Joe Biden is a fool's errand. And at the end of the day, here's the end of the day, that whoever is in office, regardless of their background and their track record, Black men have to be
Absolutely.
prepared to
Yes.
engage power. Black men have to be prepared to engage power at the level of their political interest. Okay, so whether it's Biden and Harris and Trump and Pence, okay, if we're going to deal with the political system and seek to get this political system to respond to our needs, we have to deal with power. I think that's the overarching demand that we have to deal with and think about. Playing this game of power politics, not being caught up in who's a Republican, who's a Democrat, but who is going to address our political interests. Okay, the dilemma that we have here, see, with white people, white people play a game of power. That's why you have white people who are on the Republican Party and the Republican Party, and you have white people who are Democrats. You have white people who are green or Democratic socialists. We are the only group, perhaps the only group in the United States, okay, who are under one umbrella, under one roof. We have not made ourselves political as competitive, rather, as a political demographic. And I think the beauty of what's happening right now and in this November election that's coming up is that we're beginning to see how competitive we can be in the future if we're going to play this game of politics.
Well, let me pose this question to you as you make that beautiful point, Dr. Neal, is that, hey, what I'm hearing is, I'm reading in the comments that we feel that both sides are evil at some level. We feel like it's a wash, and as we always have the conversation of choosing the lesser of two evils. But you just made the beautiful point that no matter who's in there, we've got to engage them. We've got to engage them, and we've got to have access. We've got to have those conversations and straighten our backs up and make them respect us. Having the mindset that, oh, woe is me, they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to vote. We can't have that type of attitude because our children are watching and they want us to be warriors. And so I'll throw this one out as a blanket question for anybody. What does the black male do? How do we begin to? And I heard the conversation that we have to make ourselves more power players. What do we do to make folks respect us as a powerful voting bloc? And how do we engage that power in a way that is beneficial for our community?
We got to be honest with ourselves, man. We have to be honest with ourselves, and I'm gonna be honest with you. You said it in the beginning. It's time for us to do our own thing. These people are never going to relinquish the power that we ask for. They're never going to give us exactly what we know we need for us to be successful. Now we know what we got to do. Every morning, each one of us men on this panel wake up and we put our pants on. We put them on one leg at a time. We know what we got to do before we get out the bed. So in order to fix us as a people, we know what we have to do. And creating your own party, yeah, it would be hell to go through. But sometimes you got to go through hell to get to heaven. These folk is not going to work with us, bro. And we just need to accept that. And my last point on this, if we're going to be real, they don't like us. We don't like them. We tolerate each other and we ain't getting nowhere.
I've been there, Perry.
So I wanted to add in real quickly to go back to the situation with the Central Park Five. So Giuliani was mayor. He was a Republican mayor. We had a Democratic prosecutor. And the issue is here, living in New York City, growing up in New York City, except for when I went to Piney Woods, away to college in the military. You have to understand, I have come to the point where I can actually sit down and talk to Black people and say, here are Black Democrats. This is the difference from a centralist Democrat all the way to a Democrat socialist. And I explain to people platforms, and I say it on Facebook because a lot of people don't understand, like when you vote in these people, you end up becoming disappointed and disenfranchised. We as Black people have to understand that we need to diversify our political thought and support each other.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We need to have more political capital. And unfortunately, here in New York City, where I'm afraid about if Biden and Kamala wins, y'all will see what we go through here in New York State. the inward fighting between Democrats, because they're not all going to be on a line. They're not going to work together, especially with AOC, especially with the Progressive Caucus growing and want to grow. We're not going to see that. And unfortunately, blacks are going to be caught in the middle of it because we're trying to push legislation that's considered progressive, which Biden is very clear he wants nothing to do with. He already talks about no Trump. Like, let's think back a couple of weeks ago, the day him and Trump were arguing about the police, who's going to defund the police. The next day, a man was shot 7 times in his back by police, and the conversation isn't there on that level. That's why I think it's going to be a grassroots, city and state level changes within the political structure. We just recently here in Bedford-Stuyvesant, we diversified the black elected officials. We have our state senator that's a Democrat socialist. We have a centralist Democrat that's an assembly member. She's a woman. So we have a black gay man, a black woman, and we got Hakeem Jeffries as our Congress member. And our council will be for next year is something. And you start to see more political activity. I don't want us to get to the point where blacks have become so disenfranchised by the people they elected, where they don't even want to get involved at the grassroots level.
Well, yeah, we see that no matter where we are, whether it's Houston, whether it's Chicago, whether it's New York, whether it's Charlotte, North Carolina, whether it's LA, we see it across the board where officials of all colors and creeds are distant or not connected. They get comfortable in their slot and they overlook the needs of black folk, particularly black men. They show up and they give you a turkey. They do the 2-step. They take a picture with us, and then we are happy about that type of engagement, all the while we're not getting our needs particularly met. Let me ask this question, and that was a great point just made a moment ago. I believe we build black power by spreading the black greatness in all parties. We don't win, we never win any game by putting all of our eggs in one basket. Now, I identify as a Democrat, but I have a lot of Republican friends who I share with and I talk with, and we bounce ideas off one another. And if that Republican brother is winning within the strategy that he's playing, then I'm happy for him, because I'd rather see a black man, a Republican black man as president. And that for me, that is progress, right? Just what I'm happy to see a Barack Obama as president. And so I think the conversation has to move into, if a black person wants to be a Republican, how about we sit down and understand their reasons why? Don't call them a coon. You know, I think that's disrespectful. I think that's short-sighted. I think that's narrow-minded to call somebody a coon because they disagree with you from a political standpoint. We're smarter than that, because for those of us that are Democrats, the argument can be that we've been voting democratically for so many years and nothing has changed. And so the argument can be that you're doing the same things, expecting a different result. That's called insanity, right? And so in my mind, the way we build strong, sustainable black political power in this country is working strategically in all sides of the spectrum. We need black Republicans. We need black Democrats. We need black independents as well to achieve a higher level of greatness in this country. And I think we can rise above that narrow-minded thinking. I'm coming to my question. Folks, stay with me. We're going to get to your audience questions in a few minutes. So keep those questions coming. Our team is getting those, and we're going to hear from the audience in just a moment. But I have to ask this question. And I know that I have some 45 supporters, some Trump supporters here, unabashed Trump supporters on this panel. And I love it, right? Because we are diverse in how we view this world. For those that support 45, you know his record. We talked about the Central Park 5 stuff, but we can also talk about his engagement with black women reporters by calling them stupid and saying that they've asked stupid questions. We know that he's talked about shithole countries when it relates to black folks. We know he said, "Hey, look at my African American over here," right? And we can go on and on with some of those horrible words and things that is on his record. We could talk about the housing discrimination as it relates to his real estate industries and so forth and so on. Given all those things, to our brothers that are 45 supporters, How do you reckon with those things and still support this president? Talk to me.
I guess you're coming for me, so
You're not the only one. There's another one too. Don't be ashamed.
Let's take the hat off. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. It left my mama. It left my grandmother. It left my neighborhood in perils. It allowed the crime rate to go up. My schools are failing, and I'm steadily talking to these Democratic leaders, and none of them seem to have an answer. So my question is, do I support Trump? No, I just switch parties because I'm sick of what I'm dealing with, and I'm a little bit older than some of you guys, so bear with me. So I've seen a little bit more. So when people, for example, like people talk about Trump and the Central Park 5. So I remind people, yeah, he did what he did. He said what he said, which was totally wrong. But didn't Joe Biden sign a crime bill during that time too? See, if we're going to call a spade, let's call him one.
Right.
I didn't leave the party. The party left me.
Right.
I'm begging for help, and I can't get it. They won't answer their phones. They won't engage you. Once they make you believe if you go in that booth and you push that button, you're going to hold me accountable. Then they unplug the phones the day after the election. What am I supposed to do? Come on, I know they do it. I know one did. So I'm not playing their game no more. You can go chase your bag. I mean, go chase your stimulus. I'm finna ride with these folk and chase this bag, man.
Right. And that's a real conversation. I know Michael. I know you are a 45 supporter as well. But before you say that, I want to point that Monroe just made. Former Georgia State Senator Vernon Jones, Democrat, also defected in as a Democrat, supported Donald Trump, and his party called him a disgrace. They disowned him. You could see him coming from the White House a few weeks ago and was being harassed by protesters and so forth and so on. A black man, but his statement was exactly what you just said, Mr. Monroe. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. When I look at decrepit schools, when I look at the blight in our neighborhoods, when I look at the lack of health care, we cannot always point the blame game to the other party. We've got to look in the mirror and say, what are our leaders doing and how are we holding them accountable? And so I made that point, is that you're not the only person that has said that. And there are many that are thinking that they may not say it because they don't want people to cast aspersion upon them. Michael Melendi, kind of talk to me where you are and why you support this president.
Absolutely. You know, I don't want to get caught up in titles. You know, I think that's where a lot of the division comes from. It's like you're a supporter of this man and that man. I think it needs to come down to policies. And one thing about the current president we have is he wasn't deemed a racist until he ran for president. He was receiving awards from our black leaders who we all look up to. Jesse Jackson. He was on stage with Rosa Parks. He's friends with Al Sharpton. You know, all of the rappers were rapping about him as if there was somebody who they wanted to look up to. So the moment he ran for president, now he's racist. I mean, that in itself is wild to me, that people so quickly turn just because of some things that he says that I don't necessarily agree with. But if you look very carefully, he has an entire establishment that is constantly taking what he's saying out of context. Unless you do due diligence and research, you're really only one side.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but when you say things are being taken out of context by an entire establishment, what sort of things are being taken out of context?
Well, let's say, for example, some of the quotes that he says, like, for example, a really famous one is that there were good people on both sides. That was a very prominent. I'm sorry, you broke up. Say it again.
No, you're talking about Ferguson, just so we're clear.
I don't believe that was in Ferguson. I believe that was when it related.
I'm sorry, in Virginia.
Right, exactly.
Charlottesville,
yeah, it was in Charlottesville.
Yeah,
absolutely. So there was people who were standing for the statues not to be torn down, just because they're standing for history and not wanting, you know, certain symbols of racism to be torn down. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person. You know, I believe that a lot of those same people, had they seen me get into a car accident, would be right there to try to save my life or to help me or help whoever it might be that needs help. I don't believe that everybody is a racist just because they have different points of view. So,
so let me welcome into the room a good brother, the elected official in the room, and the brother was running a little late, doing some working with his constituents tonight, but also a brother of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. I just want to welcome Commissioner Larry Johnson, Commissioner from DeKalb County, Georgia. Commissioner, how are you?
Best day of my life. I'm sorry, I got zonings going on, so you got to take care of them zonings, and they cuss you out if you don't be there. So
absolutely. So I want you to jump in really quickly here. We were just kind of talking about Trump, Biden, in the relation and the connection with Black men. But I want to get your thoughts. Longtime commissioner, Democratic commissioner in Georgia. We just finished talking about one of your colleagues, Vernon Jones there. But your thoughts on how Black men will reckon with, and I would assume that you're supporting Joe Biden, will reckon with Joe Biden's record of the crime bill and his more recent kind of flippant and offensive comments. How do you expect Black men to reckon with that and still cast the vote for Joseph Biden?
Well, I think part of it is you have to look at all of this in totality. When they were doing these 3 strike you out and all these bills, a lot of African Americans were in support of those items as well. So it was not just like it was one person leading the show. And now we look back in retrospect, it wasn't great policy. So you have that on both sides of the aisle. Both parties can raise their hand at some of these type of issues and problems that now we look 20 years back and now look forward and we see that those policies wasn't the best policies for us. But the goal here is to look at the systemic issues that face us around economics, housing, and transportation, and job development. And so those are the points that we have to raise and look at the whole platform, because I got issues on both sides, but I just know the best choice for me at this moment would be that favors a lot of the things that I see that needs to be done around healthcare, around economic development, is geared towards the Democratic Party.
Absolutely. I know I have 2 Trump. So is there another Trump supporter on the panel that wanted to tear into that particular question? But let me ask you this. So I'm going to go through the questions for the comments. Folks, thank you for being with us tonight. Keep your comments going. I love the conversations that are happening in the comments as well. One of the questions from the panelists, I want to go just really quickly, go through every panelist and tell us who you're supporting for president. Mike Melindy, who are you supporting?
I'm supporting Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Dr. Candidate from either party.
Okay. Perry Liddon, who are you supporting?
I right now am with Biden, but I am day by day. It's like still up in the air. I may vote green because I'm in a blue state. So I am leaning towards Biden, but if he continues on the rate that he's going, I'm just going to have to go green.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I'm a Biden delegate, and the platform around healthcare, economic development is what's driving me, and I support Biden Harris.
Okay. Sean Fogel.
Yeah, I'm definitely voting Donald Trump out of office, hopefully. So I am going to vote for a candidate that has a chance to win. My vote will not be wasted on a platform that doesn't have a chance to win. So I will be voting for Joe Biden.
Oh, okay. I was like, well, you went around the world there. Okay. Donovan, who are you supporting?
Well, I have a shirt that says "Hold the vote until." which means I'm going to down ballot, which means I'm going to skip the Democratic election and I'm going to vote down ballot, because the most important election to me is my local elections.
Okay. Mr. Monroe, who are you supporting?
Actually, I'm leaning more towards green. They seem to address every single issue that I'm concerned with. Reparations, they seem to address marijuana legislation. I like them. I mean, and we had Angela on the show, and she impressed me. So, and just like Donovan, I'm going to down ballot with everything in my power to make sure I'm getting the right people in the right spots on the state, local level.
Right. Absolutely. Hey, the title of today's conversation is Black Male Voters Are Diverse. Let me make sure that I encourage you and impress upon you that all politics is local. So as we're talking about a Trump and a Biden, your county commissioners are important. Your city council persons are important. Your school board members are important. Your mud district folks are important. All your state representatives, state senators, and all those different folks are super important and will have a tremendous impact on your children, so forth, and so on.
Want to add judges?
Yes,
and
I'm sorry. Yes. Judges, just absolutely. Let me ask you this. I want to go and listen. We've had a up and down year. 2020 has been a very unpredictable year, fellas. And I know, we started off by a George Floyd being murdered, and we saw Ahmaud Arbery being shot down. Jacob Blake, on and on and on. And I know for me, one after one, it's mentally taxing for me, to the point where oftentimes I can't talk about it. I can't even come on a podcast and have a conversation about it. But as this is a safe space, take the party out of it, take the politics out of it, talk to and tell America how the constant decimation, how the murder of Black men on national television for all to see. The videos are shared millions and millions of times over. And there's Black men with young children who want to come home at night and just make a good living. For those of us that have served in the military and seen some horrors and some terrors, but still come back home and see some of those same vicious things. For those of us from the other side of the track who've seen some rough things, but still we live in an America that says that things are kinder, more gentler, more inclusive. But somehow it doesn't apply to us. Kind of talk about the mental impact for you brothers when you constantly see these type of images and see these things continue to happen regardless of policy.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
As a person who grew up on the south side of Chicago, where the police was not seen as a friend, we had officers that would just take you to another side of town and basically take you in another gang's territory and leave you. And so we didn't see the police as protect and serve. We saw them as another part that was going to destroy us. And so when I made my shift as I got older and shifted to elected office, I've had a chance to see that officers are not all like that. But part of it is you still have that trauma.
Yeah.
I still have to check and make sure I have my wallet. I still get upset when I see like a George Floyd or Ahmaud Arbery, a Breonna Taylor. Those things are real, but now I'm in a policy making position. How do I help implement policies that help us around prevention, restorative justice, housing, mental health, substance abuse? So I don't just get around, make policy as, add more police, add more jail space.
Right.
We got to balance that equation. So I never go in there. I say, okay, what we're going to do around youth jobs? What we're going to do around job skill, life skill training? So when you get in a position of power, you have to make sure that you balance. And as African American, I can't lead a man. I can't lead what I am outside of the room. Even before I get into the room, I'm already judged and I'm already judged in the situation. I'm the most profiled person in the world. So even if I wear a hoodie or wear my pants with some holes in it, they won't even look at me as a county commissioner. And so I get a chance. So those are the things I bring to the table. And they don't look at us as individuals. We all still part of a group, whether you like it or not. And so that's the shame. That's the systemic racism that we face. But I think as men, we have shown how we can overcome these things. So we have to move regardless. I had to raise a family. I got a wonderful wife and married 30 years. Daughter went to college, first generation college student. So I had to go through all of that and still exhale. So I just think you don't get a chance to leave it anywhere else. It comes with you everywhere. And the trauma, whether you try to hide it subconsciously, is still a part of your psyche.
Absolutely. And black men that are watching this conversation, thank you. Put in the comments. Tell us, this is a safe space. You know, they tell us not to be so strong, and tell us that we can't be emotional, right? And oftentimes we break down with the stress and the stressors and the pressures of the world. Tell us in the comments, brothers, how seeing these type of things make you feel, right? This is a safe space. We want to support one another. Gentlemen, jump in and just tell us how you're feeling, how this is affecting you mentally.
Well, for me, you know, it's really taxing, simply because you go back to your ability to have a conversation that's going to spur growth and strategic thought within your community, you know, and when I say within your community, I mean within, you know, the African American community, because you know, I think the difference between now, you know, 2020 to 60s, where we hadn't really had so many folks who were affluent and thought they had made it. So we were able to cluster and have these conversations where we were sharing these ideas and having cerebral, you know, thoughts passing back and forth, where we were coming about with movements and actions. Now, I think that the one thing that we've probably become good at is showing anger. And as we know, whether it's in personal or whether it's in your job, in your relationships or wherever, the minute that it gets to that point, communication and understanding stops. So, you know, it's very taxing to see our communities go through this, knowing that it goes back, you know, to what we talked about an hour ago, our lack of fundamental education about really how this country runs and how you get stuff done. So,
Right. Give me another brother. I want to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say this, and I'm going to speak for myself mostly, but actually for the whole community. Now, as military members, a lot of us have come back from combat and we suffer from PTSD. But the community suffers from PTSD as well. And that's called post-traumatic slave disorder. We are still suffering from something that happened over 400 and something years ago. Now, we can talk about all the education you want. One of the most educated people on the planet is the Black woman. So we have all the education. Everything starts with that Black woman, the woman in the home. She's the foundation of the community. So you can have all the education in the world, and yet our wealth and economic situation is still at the bottom. So we have to get away from all of this. I'm not saying education is not important. It is important. But we're being educated by the oppressor who is not making us push forward. What do we have to lose right now? In a capitalistic system, we are at the bottom. And when you're at the bottom, there's only one way to go but up or die. Right now, we are 12 years away from being slaves. They say that the Black wealth is going to be zero. And that was given by Andrew Yang. He's a numbers guy. He said, this is what's going to happen, period. Now, 97% of Black wealth is given away every year, and we have $1.3 trillion circulates through our community annually, and we give 97% of that away. So right now, we have to stop being afraid. These parties are not going to save us. We have 12 years from a slave. When you have no money in this country, you got two choices. Either you're a slave or you're a problem.
Well, I agree to your point that we have to demand more. We have to demand more. My dad always tells me, son, when you walk into the room, look them dead in the eye and tell them what you want. Don't waver, don't quiver, don't shake. You tell them exactly what it is that you demand, because you're valuable. And he also told me you're worth what you can negotiate. And so we've got to be more powerful with our negotiation.
And Damien, I'm sorry, but it goes back to what you just said. Walking in there and demanding what you want. But again, if you are not educated on how to ask exactly for what you want, you're going to get what they give you. And perfect case in
It's a
point
good
is,
point. It's a good point.
what does Donald Trump always talk about? Oh, blacks are being employed at the highest rate they've ever been employed, yet they can't even take care of their kids. They can't even take care of their household. Why? Because you asked for a job, I gave you a job. But guess what happens when I give you this job now? I'm taking all those socioeconomical programs that we had in place to make sure that you could still make it. We get to take those away. Why? Because I go back to this cognitive dissonance. When white folks talk about jobs, they're talking about 60, 70, 80, 90, $100,000 jobs and up. When black folks talk about a job, come on, bro. We talking if we get a $15 hour.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
$15 hour job. We think we've made it. When in all actuality, you can't take care of your family on $15 an hour, man. And that's right. 2 people in the house.
So let me get another brother in here. But I agree with your point about low wages.
Is knowing how to ask for what you want in a strategic manner. And that's why I'm so big on education, because here's what's happening. We asking for the wrong. Thank God your mom on this podcast, because we're asking for stuff, but we lack the fundamental knowledge to form a collective, what I call black RFP, a request for proposal. That's why we don't have a platform right now. We don't know how to ask for one.
Right. So let me, I hear your passion, brother. Let me go to Dr. Neal. Dr. Neal, talk to me, because I read your Facebook posts often. I'm inspired by them. I learn so much from them because you talk about that trauma and some of that angst that black men share as we matriculate through this country. Kind of share some of that with us.
Yeah, so I study our conditions for a living. I study black people. I study our trauma, our pain. I study the condition of black men, and yes, it's overwhelming. It's depressing. It's just a hard situation. And for me, what it does is it invokes a high level of rage and anger, that needs to be channeled. Okay. And so what I attempt to do in my work and other people who do the same type of scholarship is to use this rage to really, call attention to all black men of the need to do the work that we're doing right now. Sure. That is that we have been silent for decades. We have played a very marginal role in our own destinies, and much of it has to do with structural realities. It's not that black men are somehow inept or black men don't care about their lot in life, but we have to recognize that we deal with a system that functions in the way to censor black men. Okay. And so right now we're in a moment where we can no longer play this game. We can no longer pretend that our lives don't matter. We can no longer pretend that we don't have needs that need to be attended to. We can no longer pretend that we don't have any worth. Okay. Right. And so we take this rage, we take this anger, we take this frustration, and we have these conversations. We create an agenda. We think beyond the 2020 election. We think beyond election cycles. We think not only about politics, but we also think about economics. And I'm going to continue to push that. We think about our economic status in the United States. So, the George Floyd situation, the Jacob Blake, Breonna Taylor, all of those things should be motivating events for all of us to press our priorities and to articulate our interest in the face of those who don't want to see our interests addressed, because there are demographics, there are groups in the United States that benefit from our silence. There are groups, there are demographics in the United States who do not want us to be politically active. They do not want us to be independent from the way in which Black Americans has operated politically. That is, Black people being captive to the Democratic Party. And so what I do in my work is I encourage Black men regardless of where you are, the black men to think independently, to look at yourself. Do not be fearful of focusing on your interests as a black man. We look at black women. This Democratic Party uses black women as a tool, as a weapon against us, okay? And many black women have surrendered, have succumbed to this ideology, all right? Many participated knowingly and some unknowingly, okay? You know, it is an immoral thing that black men are just now being recognized as a demographic. All right, there's nothing to be proud. We have nothing to revel in the fact that black women are seen as the quote unquote black backbone of the black community. We are participants in the community, and we have to politicize our participation in this society. And what we're doing is a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me bring this question into the fold. And I love the passion that you're giving us, brothers. Folks, thank you for keeping your comments, your honest comments going as well. We're reading those. We're inspired by those. Thank you so much. Make sure you're liking this broadcast, sharing this broadcast. Give us a like right now. You've been watching. You love this conversation. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like right now. Continue to encourage this because brothers are pouring their hearts out here. Joe Biden has a lift every voice plan, okay, that details his plan of what he plans to do for America. I haven't particularly seen a plan from Donald Trump, but I did see Donald Trump pardon a black man who used to be a bank robber and a felon live on national television. And I know that spoke to a pocket of black men who have been in those same shoes before. That said, brothers, how do we create an agenda? Because there are pockets over here. There are folks over here saying we need to do X, Y, and Z. How do we create this holistic agenda that speaks best to our community, particularly to the needs and the forgotten needs of black men? Perry, I see you losing your mind over there.
Okay, so when it comes down to this Biden's lift every voice plan, for one, let's be clear. It's broad. It's not supported by the DNC. It doesn't have that we don't have people elected to safeguard to see what is actually going to progress. No one's going to make sure that, okay, you presented this plan as a candidate, and this is how the plan is 2 years down. There's no safeguards in place. Everyone is just saying vote blue, vote blue. Our elected officials haven't even said, this is what I'm going to do to make sure to keep him honest. I have yet to hear any of our Congress members. I have yet to hear the CBC say, yes, we endorse this plan, and this is how we're going to make sure it happens.
But Perry, let me interject to my question because I'm running out of time. Tell me how we build this agenda, though. I know you don't give a damn about the Democratic Party, but tell me how we build this agenda.
It needs to be a grassroots effort. It needs to come. We need to stop allowing the presidential candidates to put up a plan. It needs to be a grassroots. It needs to start at the level.
Voice plan. For one, let's be clear. It needs to be a grassroots effort.
Brothers, make sure you're muting your mics if you're not talking, so we don't get that background noise. So I heard you. Let me go to the commissioner. Commissioner, how do we build this agenda, this holistic agenda? Because in my view, as black folks, we got to stop looking to other communities, other leaders to build an agenda and build a plan for us. And then we scrutinize and say, well, this is missing, that is missing, that is missing, right? But how do we come together and create? And I know several years ago, Tavis Smiley had a kind of covenant, a kind of plan. But I think in 10 years, it is outdated. Things have changed. But talk to me, Commissioner, how do we create this agenda, our own agenda, that we can go into the room, backs up straight, head up high, looking in the eye and say, this is our plan. This is what we want. Take it or leave it, or you're not getting that vote. Talk to me, Commissioner. Unmute yourself, Commissioner.
I think he's muted.
Oh, first of all, we got to talk about what we're talking about tonight, which is voting. If you don't vote, you still voted. Whether you believe it or not, you still voted. You can shake your head all you want to, but think about what's happening. In my neighborhood, I won. You know what I've done? I got the first intergenerational center in the Southeast, a $30 million facility for all generations, free of charge. Performing Arts Center, $15 million. Got sidewalks in areas that never had sidewalks before. I got one of the largest movie studios where Black Panther, Spider-Man 3 is being filmed, creating jobs for young people who now can go from high school to work, and the average salary is $100,000. If you're not at the table, you own the menu. When you register to vote, guess what? You get a chance to serve on juries. Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd. So your vote is your power. And the only ones who can make public policy in America are elected officials. They're the only one that can raise their hand. You can influence it, but you have to work both ends. We cannot just get caught up in ideological split hairs on everything. Our folks need housing. Our folks need transportation. We need education. And I'm speaking as a Black man who come from teenage parents, from WIC, from food stamps. So we come from the hood. I come from the South Side. My wife from the projects got a doctorate degree. We got master's degrees. We broke the generational curse where all of us had degrees in our family. So I could tell you, I've been to a PWI. I went to University of Illinois. I came through the hood, came through the disciples, the El Rukin. So I'm a case study within a case study. So nobody can tell me on how, you ain't been through nothing and all that. I've been through all of that, crack epidemic, everything. So what I'm telling you is what I've been through and what we have to do. We have to come to the table, and we may have disagreements, but man, we all have to be unified on the upliftment of our folks, because we, Black men, we make a difference. We're the catalysts and conveners of our families. If we're not whole, our family and communities won't be whole. And so I don't take it lightly for my role as an elected official, because I'm a county commissioner. So I'm the last one on the ballot, but I'm the first one called. I did the street dogs, your potholes, police response time. So I'm at the grassroots of all elected officials, so I get to see it all. I just had a case last week. I had armed guards take 10 families out of extended stay home because they couldn't pay their rent because of COVID, and they lost their unemployment benefits. I had to find them a place to go. So that's real. That's on the street. So when you talk about politics, and I'm a Democrat, so we Democrats are working hard here in our community. And so just look at folks individually and how they work in their community and judge their quality of life. But it's going to take all of us together, brothers, to make a difference. And so thank you for this platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Wait, well, I see a couple brothers chomping at the bit, and I love it, because we're going to disagree, but with passion, and there's respect across the board here. Folks want to make sure, as you reset, this is a great conversation around Black male voters are diverse, and our diverse thoughts as it relates to the American political landscape. This conversation is brought to you by the Damien Jones podcast and the great brothers of Iota, Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. I'm coming to as I saw the fingers, and give me passionate but brief responses, brother Monroe.
I don't need to come to their table. I need my own table. I don't need the Democratic or the Republican Party to do anything for me. What I need to do is I need to create my own company. I need to stop living the 40-40-40 plan, where I work 40 hours a week for 40 years to get 40% of what I made. I'm sick of working for them. I'm not working for them no more. I come from the hood, the ghetto, and got a pocket full of money, and I'm not doing it anymore. We need to start doing for ourselves. We need to create our own table. And if as long as we keep eating at their table, they're going to keep feeding us scraps. And the most important thing that we need to do is look at our Black representation, the ones that have been in office year after year after year after year, saying we need to vote, you need to vote, and we keep voting, and they keep going down there to Washington and everywhere else and not doing what they need to do.
Absolutely. I hear that passion. Michael Melendi, I'm coming to you, then I'm coming to you, Dr. Neal. Michael, talk to us. I know you had a point.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree, so much of what Commissioner said. And, I think that, a lot of it comes down to us doing exactly what we're doing right now, which is to have the conversation, the older Black men reach down to the younger Black men and instill the importance of not only education, but the importance of life and the value of life. I think, speaking to that trauma earlier that you spoke of, I mean, we see so much Black on Black crime in this community because we don't value our lives, so In order for that to take place, it needs to be passed down. And I'm afraid that, it might be too late, but I take that back. It's never too late, but it feels like it's slipping away very rapidly when you see the amount of homicides, when you see the amount of abortion rates. A child in New York who's in a black mother's womb is more likely to not be born than to actually, be born. That in itself is just, it's evil and it's sad. So leaning back into the value of life and doing exactly what we're doing now, I think definitely will increase the sense of community and overall help people to, understand how they can play a part in not only the political atmosphere, but in our communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Ron Neal, talk to us.
Yeah. I think what we need to do is we need to be concerned about our political power and capital and how we use it, and not be obsessed with the vote. If we know how to use power, it doesn't matter who's off, who is in office, who the elected official is. We put pressure on power and allow power to respond to our political needs. And that means that we need to be strategic. We need to be driven by a long-term and long-range goal and not be caught up in immediate gratification. We need to change the way we think about politics. We need to recognize that Black people, up to this point, Black people are not politically sophisticated. Black people are not politically mature when it comes to this game called politics. And the fact, again, that the Democratic Party holds the Black vote hostage is indicative of the fact that we are not mature. And Black men are in a position right now to evolve Black politics. And we do that by thinking in a long-term fashion. Don't be caught up in 2020 or 2024. We must think in terms of the long game. That is where we need to go. That's what we have not done as Black people. And that is why we are manipulated and exploited by politicians, because we do not take the time to think through who we are and where we want to go.
Who we are and how powerful we are. Donovan Sadiq, I know you wanted to make a point as well.
Yeah, again, I want to thank the commish for his hard work and stuff. You're one of the few good ones that we have out there that's out there doing the work. And, I know everybody talks about the hood and all that other stuff, but just like the commish and Dr. Neal said, not everybody comes from the hood, or, we come from all different facets. Chief Fogel on here and I come from a different background. So what I want to talk about, when they talk about asking for an agenda and doing something, there's been agendas out there. You have Marcus Garvey, you have Dr. Claude Anderson has an agenda. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad had an agenda. These are out there. The question is, which agenda do we want to apply? There's hundreds of them. So to sit up there and act like we don't know what we're doing, we don't know what we want, the agendas are out there. Which one are we going to take?
Yeah, absolutely. You make some good points. You make some, but let me say this: all the points that you all have made, we're going to come to a close. I think the Laker game is on. Y'all not going to make me miss the whole game. But here's what I've heard tonight. I've heard that Black men are so brave. I heard that Black men feel forgotten. I thank the brothers on the panel for sharing their political thoughts. Those who support Donald Trump, that's all right with me. I support you, brother, as long as you're thinking for yourself. That's whatever's best for you and your family. If you support Joe Biden, that's great for you. Thankful to our dear brother commissioner who's had his name in the hat for over 20 years in Georgia and DeKalb County doing the God's work. Right, because we need strong Black leaders like him, and it's not easy to be an elected official because you take the darts, right? But I also am thankful for all the brothers that sharing their pain. And I know sometimes we had these conversations, folks don't want to hear that. They want, let's get to the solutions. No, brother, you about to hear this work first. You about to hear the things that we're going through, because oftentimes we don't get to share it. Folks don't get to celebrate us until we're in a casket, right? And we go through so much pain, so much trauma, so forth and so on. So I'm so thankful for you all doing that. But the Black male vote is so important. The Black male vote is going to change this country. If you have issues with a Joe Biden and his record, that is validated. That is validated. If you have issues with Donald Trump and his record, that is validated. Do what is best for you. But what I say to all of our Black brothers, as a brother just mentioned, this is our moment to evolve, to become more politically mature, to take our place in state capitals, to take our place in commissioner's court, to take our place in the city councils, at city halls, right? We have to throw out the idea, we have to throw out the language that it doesn't work for us. One of the reasons why I got into politics is because I heard Malcolm say, in order to change the system, you got to infiltrate, right? And so as I learned to put on this jacket and this suit and infiltrate the political system, to find ways to make it work for us, to learn the ways of those that it's working for, and find out how it works for us. And I found out that if we push our children to become lawyers and go to law school, then we will have more Black faces on the bench. If we push our children to get more involved in civic participation and in politics, and strive to be a commissioner or a mayor or a state representative, we can do so much. When we talk about breaking the back of the criminal justice system, we ought to push our children, and Black men, we ought to strive to be district attorneys, right? And so when we have issues of officer-involved shootings, have a valuable perspective and a culturally competent perspective as to how to charge officers and how to handle these issues. I hear the conversation all the time that we got to get off the sideline, but I want to echo that again. We got to get off the sideline and get in the game, roll up our sleeves. Most of us play sports, and you can't score the ball if you're sitting on the bench. And so whatever gift that God has given you, interject yourself in this system. Hold your elected officials accountable. Go to their offices and give them hell. Curse them out. Whatever you've got to do to let them know what you, your community, and your children want. And listen, myself as an aspiring elected official, as a politico, and the commissioner tell you, we want that. Come tell us exactly. Be raw with it. That is how we find out what it is that you need. But Black men, you are valued on this platform, in this podcast, in terms of, and I know with all the fraternities, but the brothers of Iota, Phi Theta, Fraternity Incorporated, feel that you are valuable as well across this country. And I know we encourage you all to vote. Make sure you are voting. Make sure you are taking everybody you can. Text 5 or 6, 7, 8, 10 brothers to make sure that you are voting. Make sure you are voting down ballot as well. But we will decide, right? We say, we all say that Black women are the backbone of our families and our countries, but at the same time, Black men, we are the ordained leaders of our households and our families and our communities. And we have to continue to wear that responsibility. And that means providing in the home, but it also is providing civic and education and pushing civic participation, right? Because the only way we change it, if we roll our sleeves up and bust it in the mouth head first, to change the ways and change the oppression and change the things that are happening in this country. So if we're unhappy with Joe Biden, we're unhappy with Donald Trump, let's get together, let's put forth a plan and make sure we have somebody that we all can get behind in 24, in 28, in 32, so forth and so on. We ain't got time for excuses anymore. We got to produce results at a high level. Our children are watching